To enter the realm of darkness, subscribe and hit the bell, because every story here holds unforgettable secrets. Don't forget to like and share your thoughts. Could the tragic ending have been different? Your opinion might change everything. Step into the channel and discover the untold horrors.
On a cold autumn evening, four friends gathered in an old abandoned apartment located on the outskirts of a small town that people rarely mention. The apartment was suspiciously cheap, the walls covered with mold, and the ceiling groaning with every gust of wind. None of them imagined that this night would become the worst memory of their lives. They came to spend a short vacation away from the noise of the city, but curiosity led them to the storage room that had been locked for decades. There, they found an ancient wooden box covered with dust and ash, its lock shattered by time. One of them carefully lifted the lid, and before them appeared a black cassette tape, on which was written in faint handwriting barely legible, "The Last Scream. Do not play." They exchanged looks, wondering if it was a prank from the old owner or the remains of some foolish game. But something about that tape inspired a deep sense of danger. Despite their hesitation, one of them grabbed the old player that was sitting on the shelf, inserted the tape, and pressed play. At first, silence reigned. Then came a long gasp, as if a woman was taking her last breath. A few moments later, the screaming began. A sharp, strange scream carrying a despair that could pierce the heart. It was no ordinary scream. It seemed to carry scattered words among the wailing, words they could not clearly understand. As they stared at each other, the sound suddenly rose until the player itself shook in the man's hand. He tried to stop it, but the button seemed to sink into the device's frame. Then they heard the whispers for the first time. Soft, resonant whispers repeating their names one by one. A strange coldness filled the room as if the air itself had grown heavier. One of them said in a trembling voice, "That's enough, turn it off now." But the player did not stop. The screaming continued, and the whispers grew louder until it felt as if they were lodged in their ears. At that moment, all the lights went out, leaving only the pale moonlight creeping through the cracks of the windows. In the glow of the tape, they saw something moving in the corner, a dark shape slowly crawling. Terror seized their hearts. One of them yanked the player violently and threw it to the floor, where it shattered, but the sound did not stop. It became clearer, closer to them. As they backed toward the door, they felt their feet sinking into the ground of the room, as if it were clinging to them. They tried to scream, but their throats betrayed them. Then suddenly, silence. The entire sound cut off in a single instant. They imagined that the nightmare had ended. But when they caught their breath and looked at where the tape had been smashed, they discovered that the box they had found was completely empty, no tape, no fragments. As if what had happened was a shared hallucination. Except that the nearby table held something that had not been there minutes earlier. A pale yellow paper, written in inhuman handwriting, "You have heard, and you will not forget." They fled the apartment in terror that night and never returned, but the curse did not leave them. Everywhere they went afterward, the sound kept chasing them. In their cars, in their homes, even in their dreams. They began to hear the whispers calling their names, repeating the same words every night, "He is here, behind you." After 1 week, the symptoms appeared in the first of them. He was a bold young man who did not believe in the curse. He sat in his room at night, laughing and mocking what had happened. But when he closed his eyes, he found himself in the same storage room, the wooden box open before him. He saw the tape wrapping around his neck, slowly strangling him. He woke up gasping, and discovered around his throat the mark of a black belt, as if it had really wrapped itself around him in his sleep. The next day, they found that man sitting on the floor, staring into emptiness, his eyes wide. He never spoke again. He remained in a mental hospital, whispering only one sentence, "The voice in my head, it will never leave." The second tried to ignore what had happened. He thought he could close the doors on the past. But every night, at 3 in the morning, his phone would ring without any caller ID. If he answered, the same scream came to him, accompanied by a woman sobbing. He turned his phone off forever, but he began to hear the sound emerging from the walls of his room. On the last night, he left a short message, "I'm sorry. I can't endure it." In the morning, he was gone without a trace. The third convinced himself that everything was an illusion. He began recording every night what he heard to prove to himself it was only in his head. But his recordings only deepened his terror. In the last recording, you can hear him say, "If one of us dies, he will draw closer to the rest. If I go, be warned." Then comes the echo of a distorted laugh and a voice repeating, "The last scream never ends." The fourth became vigilant, never sleeping. He sealed all his windows, glued shut every door, and swore never to turn on any player or phone. But on a dark night, he felt warm breath near his ear and heard the final whisper he had been waiting for all those months, "Your turn now." In the morning, nothing remained of him but his shadow on the wall, as if his body had dissolved. People say to this day that the tape does not vanish forever. It moves like a silent plague. It may arrive in an old package, or you may find it among